Hey guys, today it is the 1 year out of every 4 years where there is actually a 29th day of February, and it is a leap year this year in 2020. So I did say in my last video that I was hoping to do a February 29th, 2020 video, just for the fun fact that you will not get an opportunity to make another video on a leap year until 4 years from now in 2024. So, what I've decided to do is I've decided to actually fast track my weekly roundup video, and instead of doing it on a Sunday, for the second time in the past few weeks, I'm going to do yet another weekly roundup video on a Saturday night. The last one was 3 weeks ago when I did my special surprise collaboration with Windy City Hockey. So, compared to past weeks, I actually would not be surprised if this week's weekly roundup, well, the second one this week, because I didn't do the last one until Tuesday, but I'm going to be honest. I would not be surprised if this time around the weekly roundup is probably, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's shorter than it has been so far. So 3 days ago, we marked this past Wednesday as I'm filming this, but earlier this week we marked our first full month since my very first weekly roundup video premiered, and I launched the weekly roundup program here on the channel. So far, after 1 month, I'm happy to see that so far it seems that you guys are watching them, and you know what? As long as people are enjoying them, and as long as I see that people are watching them, then I'm probably going to continue on with the weekly roundup videos going forward. Now, I don't want to guarantee that it's going to be an absolute forever type deal. There may even be times, like for example this summer, where maybe I cut it back to maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe I'm not going to do it once a month, but I might cut it back to maybe just a bi-weekly thing in the summer months. Obviously, that's a long time from now, thankfully, so, I mean, could I change my mind on that? I probably will. I would not be surprised if in 6 months from now I talk about how I've done one every Sunday since January 26th of this year, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So, one other thing I want to talk about is that, once again, a quick reminder to anybody tuning in to the weekly roundup for the very first time that these videos, unless I either state that A, there will be a visual element in the video like I did in my last video, or B, if a video starts out with some type of visual element like this, just as a random example. So if there's something you can see on the screen besides a black screen, then obviously there will be visuals in it, eh? But anyways, with that, where should I start? Let's start with the fact that the NHL trade deadline happened back on Monday. There were some trades made. I gotta be honest, I've been quite busy these past couple of weeks, so I haven't really had much time to keep track of what's been going on. I mean, I know Vancouver picked up Tyler Toffoli. I actually think that if Vancouver makes the playoffs, then I think Tyler Toffoli, and of course if he re-signs with Vancouver, I think he could actually be a long-term player for the Canucks, and not just a player, but a good player. I can't really remember any other significant trades. I haven't really had much time these past few weeks to really follow hockey, unfortunately, to be quite honest. There was one other significant trade. I can't even remember. This is Driving me nuts. I know that the Chicago Blackhawks actually traded Robin Lehner to the Golden Knights. That's crazy, in my opinion, but I can understand it if his contract's coming up, or coming to an end, but still, if Chicago could have re-signed Robin Lehner, I think that would have been the best thing for them, because then they would have a goaltender in the short term that they can start to rebuild the team around. I mean, I don't think Corey Crawford's going to be playing in 5 years from now, to be honest. I mean, he's had a lot of injuries, and he's been in the NHL for a long time, so I would not be surprised if Corey Crawford is not playing in 5 years from now. So trading Robin Lehner, maybe Lehner, there could be more going on behind the scenes than we really realize, where maybe he was making it clear that, hey, I would not be resigning here. You never know. I know that a lot more goes on behind the scenes than we really know. But yeah, I mean, I know that Chicago made some trades at the deadline that I'm not really sure how I feel about those. Ottawa traded J.G. Pajot to the New York Islanders. So Ottawa picked up some draft picks. I mean, I think that right now Ottawa should be trying to rebuild and pick up some draft picks to help them restart their team. I would not be surprised if we start seeing the Senators make some splashes for the draft this year, and some new uniforms to coincide with that, if the rumor is true, which I think it is going to be true, but we'll have to wait and see on what happens. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if Ottawa actually does get some new uniforms next season. I mean, even if the team continues to be bad, I think most people would agree that at least Ottawa getting new uniforms would be a good first step in the right direction. I think they're long overdue for a change, but we'll have to wait and see on what happens there. So, what else was I going to say at this point? I know that Major League Soccer started today, and I actually noticed something for the very first time since Adidas. I don't know how long Adidas has been in charge of Major League Soccer's uniforms, but ever since I have watched Major League Soccer, which I think I started seeing it off and on when Toronto FC first joined Major League Soccer back in like 2005. Honestly, I don't even remember when Toronto FC first became Canada's very first ever Major League Soccer franchise, but as far as I know, Adidas has kept the same number and lettering font on all of Major League Soccer's jerseys basically for as long as Toronto FC has been an MLS franchise. So I noticed that Adidas has brought in a new letter and number font. Now, I still think that the long-time font that Adidas has had essentially, I can't remember if it's changed over the years or not. I don't remember it really changing much, but do I think their old letter number kit across Major League Soccer was bad? No. I thought that it was perfectly fine, to be honest. But this new letter and numbering font, it has a bit of a retro vibe to it, and honestly, I don't mind it. But one thing about Adidas Major League Soccer uniforms, and this is actually the first time in my channel's history that I'm going into Major League Soccer in any detail, but I'm really getting sick of always seeing Adidas 3 stripes on every Major League Soccer uniform almost. I mean, I quickly tuned into the Whitecaps Sporting Kansas City game tonight, and the Whitecaps have this big Adidas 3-stripe thing on the one shoulder of their new navy blue jersey. I'm sorry, but something like that is just, it's too much. It's, they could have done a much better job. They could have even done subtle Adidas 3 stripes on the upper part of both shoulders of their new jersey, kind of in a similar vein or similar way that the Indianapolis Colts have had with the 2 stripes on the top shoulder area of their jerseys for ever since the franchise began many years ago in Baltimore. You know, they could have done something like that on each shoulder, and I think that would have been better if they were just a thin set of 3 stripes. Something like that, in my opinion, would have been a lot more tasteful. So now we're going to be stuck seeing that, and potentially other, because I haven't seen all of the new designs that have been brought out in Major League Soccer for this year, but big oversized Adidas 3 stripe patterns on the uniforms. It's ugly. It's not good. The new number and lettering kit that they've been putting on some of these new uniforms so far, I like it overall. But you know what? I'm going to be honest. There is one thing about Major League Soccer that I don't care for either. Not only do I not like the presence of the Adidas 3 stripes on every uniform, essentially, but I also don't like how teams can't have different number and lettering fonts. You know, I would like to see a little bit more variety there as well. And something else too, you know, there are some uniforms like the LA Galaxy's white uniform with the diagonal sash on the front that I don't think they should have to keep changing every 2 years. Now, I understand why soccer does it. It's been, I think, across all different forms of soccer across the world, and if I'm incorrect on this, please correct me, because I really don't know. But as far as I know, in Europe, with professional soccer there, the teams change a kit every season. And I think that's why Major League Soccer does it here in North America as well. But, you know, in my honest opinion, I would like to see a team or two keep their, while they don't have home and away uniforms in soccer, but they have primary and secondary kits. You know, I think it'd be nice if a team or two once in a while kept their kits around for a little longer. You know, I like the idea of some consistency. Excuse me. You know, I like the idea of some friggin' consistency. You know, you don't see a league like Major League Baseball, the NFL, or the NHL where teams are all changing their uniforms all the time. You don't see that. I mean, sadly, in the NBA, teams have at least a new alternate uniform of some sort every season now. It's ridiculous. And in basketball, the uniform rules are too relaxed. It's ridiculous. At least in my opinion. Now, I don't expect everybody to agree with me there, but, you know, am I against color versus color in basketball? No. But what I am against is when a team is doing color versus color every time they play almost, where it's so common. I mean, once in a while, you know, I think it's actually not bad at all. But it's when you become the NBA and you do color versus color basically every single day on the calendar, where there's at least one color versus color game. And when a team keeps bringing out a new uniform all the time, every year. See, I like consistency. And in Major League Soccer, I think it would be nice if teams could have a designated primary and a secondary kit that they could keep around a little bit longer if they wanted to. I mean, I'll even use the Vancouver Whitecaps as an example. I think their white uniform they created for last season to celebrate their 40th anniversary as a soccer franchise, dating all the way back to the North America Soccer League of I believe the 70s and the 80s as well, and the time that the Whitecaps were a USL franchise. So that franchise has 40 years of history. Now, obviously, they've only been in Major League Soccer since, I believe, 2011, if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, when they brought out that throwback-inspired white uniform last season, I actually thought it was a really nice uniform. I still like it. That's a uniform that I'd like them to keep around for a while. But what, they're going to have to change it at the end of this season because it's only got a 2-year shelf life? I think that's ridiculous. You know, sorry. I got to get some water here in a second because my throat's getting dry. But with the LA Galaxy, their white jersey is a classic. For Major League Soccer, it is classic, in my opinion. It is a classic. And, you know, I mean, I understand from what I remember that they basically just flipped the sash around, if I'm not mistaken, on the front. But, you know, I'd like to see a team like that who has a borderline iconic uniform, arguably iconic uniform. I think it is in soccer. Well, here in North America's Major League Soccer, of course. You know, I think it would be nice if they could keep that uniform as a permanent uniform where they don't have to touch it every 2 years. You know, I like the idea of every team, you know, if they wanted to follow along with what Europe does, I don't know why they can't just let teams have an alternate uniform. Where I know they can have a third jersey in Major League Soccer, but I find most teams don't do it. So, if they had a third jersey program where every 2 years teams could swap out their third jerseys all the time, I would be more impartial to that. But, you know, what I hate is when a team creates a really, really good design and then they have to change it in 2 years. You know, I like the idea of consistency. I mean, for example, let me ask you this. Would you want to see the Montreal Canadiens change their jerseys every 2 years? I sure as hell wouldn't. And I would like to believe that most people would agree with me there. How about we throw in the New York Yankees? I mean, maybe they could wear a neon green uniform with pink polka dots for 2 years. Would you want to see that? Of course not. I sure as hell wouldn't. And thankfully, I can assure you that's never going to happen. And it better not. That, you know, if it ever happened, if they ever tried to push that on the public, the public outcry would be glorious. And they would axe that uniform before it ever made it to even a spring training game. I guarantee it, thankfully. But I'm just using those as extreme examples. I mean, would you want the Toronto Maple Leafs wearing, I don't know, a red jersey? A red and white jersey like the Detroit Red Wings? And replace it in 2 years? No, you wouldn't. So, you know, I just like the idea of a little bit of consistency with uniforms in soccer, that's all. Now, moving on to the NHL. I was watching the Jets-Oilers game tonight, and I must say I am getting tired of the Oilers constantly wearing orange. I can't say it enough. I mean, I was watching the game, and I noticed a lot of fans were wearing blue, royal blue. And I keep thinking to myself, wow, that uniform is gorgeous. Their current one is good overall, compared to some of the other uniforms in the NHL, but I'm sorry, it should not be their home jersey. I mean, if it was a third jersey, I wouldn't have a complaint. Even though I do think the striping should be the same striping style as the WHA throwback from a few years ago. But you know what I noticed tonight? I noticed that the mascot of the Oilers was wearing their alternate uniform. I also believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the Oilers' team skills competition within their own team, their own super skills competition, I guess they host every year, I believe one side was wearing navy blue and the other side was wearing white, not orange. So, if the Oilers are promoting their third jersey a little bit more, you know, I'm going to be honest, I think that's a step in the right direction. Now, do I want the Oilers switching to the navy blue third jersey they just brought out full time? God, no. But if it's if it's maybe a test of the waters to see if fans really want to stick with the new orange and navy or not, well, if the fans make it clear that they prefer some type of blue over orange, I hope that at least Edmonton's going to move to navy blue. But as I say that, though, I don't know why they ever went back away from royal blue and orange again. It's so stupid. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I've ranted on it so many times, but still, it's a pain in the ass. At least in my opinion. Now, their away jersey still looks great, but I miss royal blue. But I will say this too, I was watching a highlight clip from the Flames game today, and Tampa's third jersey. My God. I would not be surprised if that third jersey's canned at the end of this season. I have a feeling that we could see Tampa Bay maybe get new uniforms in the next season or two. Now, do I think Tampa will get new home and away jerseys next year? I have a feeling that they're going to probably wait for another year. Steve Yzerman's no longer involved with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe Tampa Bay is going to look at redesigning their uniforms, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did. And I hope they do. But, their third jersey, yikes. That thing is ugly. I mean, I could actually see Tampa at the bare minimum either A, getting a new third jersey next season, or B, perhaps they bring back their original black jersey as a throwback. Because that seems to be the thing for teams to do right now, is bringing out 1990s throwbacks right now. The Blues have done it. The Canucks have done it. Arizona did it last season. And there's one more I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Well, the Blues have done it. Los Angeles has done it. Crap. The Canucks have done it. Arizona's been doing it since last season as a full-time third jersey. And who's the other one? Oh, guys, I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm really drawing a blank right now. My apologies. But yeah, I mean, you've got Vancouver, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Arizona, and they're all doing 90s throwbacks. And I think I might even be missing a team too. So it would not surprise me if Tampa Bay did that as a gesture to say, hey, here's something to appease you while we work on redesigning our main uniforms. So, how are we doing for time? So, I also want to talk about the XFL. I noticed that the Wildcats were playing the New York Guardians today. The Guardians' black uniform looked good. But my God, those Wildcats uniforms are horrible. Yuck. I'm hoping that at the bare minimum by next season, the Wildcats will be able to redesign their uniforms or at least put a decent logo on their helmets. Would be a great start too. But what else did I want to say at this point in time about the XFL? Two things. Number one, they've actually supposedly got TV deals for the next 2 to 3 years. And they've, obviously, as I've said before, when I did my XFL video in the past few days, with the XFL, they actually have good TV contracts with Fox and with ESPN. And they've got a deal with TSN here in Canada so that TSN broadcasts all of their games. I mean, in my opinion, they're doing way better than the Alliance of American Football did already. And they haven't even played as long as the Alliance of American Football lasted, as far as I know. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. So, the XFL is actually going to stick around for a while, which is good. I mean, after what happened to the AAF, I would just love to see the XFL complete one season. One full season with a championship. But another thing I want to talk about too. I noticed that the XFL, believe it or not, live streams their games on YouTube. They have no blackouts. They have no pay-to-watch online subscription program like, say, NHL Game Center Live or NHL Center Ice or NFL Sunday Ticket. They don't have blackouts, and they don't have any pay-to-watch subscription programs for their games. All of their games are live streamed on their own YouTube channel. I mean, I don't know about you viewers out there, but I'm going to tell you something. If you're a new league trying to promote yourselves and you're trying to grow, that is a damn good way to do it. Even, I was talking to a coworker today at my work, and he was absolutely ecstatic that he could watch games on his breaks live. And he told me that he was actually really happy that I told him that, because now, if he's at work on, say, a Saturday or a Sunday, he loves football, and he told me he's been watching the XFL. I mean, you start getting the NFL diehard fans out there watching the XFL during the NFL's offseason, you might really increase your fan base overall. I mean, I must say, I actually have a feeling that the XFL could grow more than some people think. I mean, I think it's done really well so far. And I've actually really liked what I've seen. So, I mean, obviously things could change in the next year or two. And right now, when you're a new league, obviously there's a bit of a hype around you where it's like, oh, hey, this is a new league, I'm going to check this out. But I'll be curious to see how it does going forward. But the fact that they've got a TV deal for the next, I believe, 3 years with ESPN and Fox to televise their games, and they live stream their games on YouTube, I think they're off to a good start. And when St. Louis, as I said in my last video, is drawing close to 30,000 people for the first some type of professional football game in St. Louis since the Rams left, that's a pretty damn impressive number. And you know what? I hope that the Battlehawks continue to bring in a lot of fans in St. Louis. I mean, in my opinion, I think the way that St. Louis lost the Rams sucks. I thought it sucked. Now, I understand why the Rams left, but I still think that the city of St. Louis should have an NFL team again. I do feel that St. Louis got a bit gypped. I mean, do I think that Los Angeles is a great place for an NFL team? Yes, I do. I mean, I know that in Los Angeles there's a lot of competition. I know that. But, you know, I do think that Los Angeles should have an NFL team. But do I think that the city of Los Angeles should also host the Chargers? Hell no. I mean, I also think it sucks that the city of Oakland lost the Raiders, in my opinion. But compared to the Chargers moving to LA, the Raiders are at least moving to a new city that's got a brand new stadium, and they're going to be in a totally new state that has never had an NFL team before. And they're playing in Las Vegas. Of course, the Raiders are going to... I would be shocked if they did not do anything below excellent in Vegas. I think the Las Vegas Raiders will do very well there. But as for the Chargers in Los Angeles, I mean, there's a reason why back in 1960, after the end of 1960's season, the Chargers left LA for San Diego. They left there for a reason. I mean, the Chargers are San Diego's team. San Diego cared about the Chargers. Los Angeles, even though I think there are fans in LA for the Chargers, they've got nothing on the Rams, in my opinion, in terms of fan support. I still think the Chargers made a big mistake moving to LA. I really do wish that they could have figured out a new stadium option in San Diego. It sucks that they couldn't make it work. I mean, obviously it is what it is, but, you know, it stinks. But, you know, I'm hoping that with San Diego, I hope that the Chargers owners reconsider and go, hey, wow, we really made a big mistake. And maybe they'll hopefully pony up enough money for a new stadium in San Diego. It would be nice if them and the city could agree to something where the taxpayers aren't going to have to pay so much money like they were supposedly asking before, as far as I know. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I think what happened in San Diego is that taxpayers didn't want to have to pay more taxes to fund the new stadium, and I respect that. You know, taxpayer money needs to go to the important, essential things, in my opinion, if that's what happened, which I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. But also, speaking of San Diego, I actually think that if the XFL put a team there, I don't know why, but I've got a feeling that they could do what the Battlehawks have done in St. Louis so far, and they could be a draw. I mean, if the Wildcats are having attendance problems in Los Angeles, well, there's a nice old empty stadium in San Diego that really is missing their NFL franchise, and I think they would adopt an XFL team pretty quick if the XFL continues to keep growing and actually doing really well. I mean, obviously, we have to cross that bridge when we get there after one full year of operations, but, you know, if this whole XFL thing becomes a long-term thing, unlike the first time they tried, which was a colossal failure, you know what? I mean, another city that I think would do good with an XFL team is San Diego. And even San Antonio, Texas, too, would probably do well as well. But anyways, you guys, I'm not going to go into anything else. There's not really a whole lot compared to last week that I wanted to touch base on. I mean, I talked about stuff I wanted to talk about here, but I know there was more that I had to pull out of my hat to talk about, especially when I had some really good viewer requests from Windy City Hockey, my one subscriber, Orbital, and my other subscriber, Sean. And obviously, Sean, as you well know, I made that XFL video based off of your request, eh? But I'm going to call it a wrap for this week. I thought it'd be cool to do a video on the 29th day of February for the fun of it. But on that note, you guys, I will wrap this video up so that it's shorter than my last one, which was over 40 minutes long. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I forgot to mention earlier that you can just listen to this on the side. At least I said there's no visuals. So if you're a frequent viewer of the weekly roundup, or I mean listener, well, with the exception of this past Tuesday, then you know what I do anyway. So, but anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up now before it's hitting 40 minutes in length as well. So on that note, you guys, until this time, most likely next Sunday, I hope you have enjoyed yet another weekly roundup podcast from myself. And until my next one, and as always, until my next video, take care, guys. And as usual, folks, bye for now.